All right, for this week's journal, you're going to be using an article that I provided for you. The article is called Long Lines of Mourners Pay Respects to Ginsburg at Court, and this was published just last week on September 24th. And so what I'm going to do in this recording is simply read through the piece, and that way if you'd like to listen to it and view it at the same time, you can do that. And then I will have a separate piece to highlight the annotation section of this. So, long lines of mourners pay respects to Ginsburg at court. With crowds of admirers swelling outside, Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg was remembered Wednesday at the court by grieving family, colleagues, and friends as a prophet for justice who persevered against long odds to become an American icon. The court's 8 justices, masked along with everyone else because of the coronavirus pandemic, gathered for the first time in more than 6 months for the ceremony to mark Ginsburg's death from cancer last week at the age of 87 after 27 years on the court. Washington already is consumed with talk of Ginsburg's replacement, but Chief Justice John Roberts focused on his longtime colleague. The best words to describe Ginsburg are tough, brave, a fighter, a winner, Roberts said, but also thoughtful, careful, compassionate, honest. The woman who late in life became known in admiration as the notorious RBG wanted to be an opera virtuoso, but became a rock star instead, Roberts said. Ginsburg's 2 children, Jane and James, and other family members sat on one side of the casket across from the justices. With her portrait on display nearby, Ginsburg's flag-draped casket sat in the court's great hall for the private service before it was moved outside so the public could honor her. Health precautions because of the pandemic led the court to limit the number of people inside the building, which has been closed to the public since March. Through the day, thousands of people paid their respects to the women's rights champion and leader of the court's liberal bloc. As darkness fell, the line stretched nearly half a mile from the court as people filed past. The casket was to be on public view until 10 p.m. Wednesday and from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. Thursday. Earlier, the members of the court were arrayed in their seats in order of seniority, now changed by Ginsburg's death so that Justices Clarence Thomas and Stephen Breyer flanked Roberts. Breyer took the spot Ginsburg held when the court last gathered for the Justices' Memorial in 2019 following the death of John Paul Stevens. Rabbi Lauren Holtzblatt of Washington, D.C. compared Ginsburg to a prophet who imagined a world of greater equality and then worked to make it happen. This was Justice Ginsburg's life's work, to insist that the Constitution deliver on its promise that we the people would include all people. She carried out that work in every chapter of her life, says Holtzblatt, whose husband Ari once worked as a law clerk to Ginsburg. Outside, some people waiting to pass by the casket said that they had driven through the night. One of those in line, Heather Setzler, a physician's assistant in Raleigh, North Carolina, said she named her 2 cats Hillary, Ruth, and Kiki in honor of Ginsburg's childhood nickname. There was just something about her. She was so diminutive, yet turned out to be such a giant, Setzler said, wearing a masked face adorned with the small portraits of Ginsburg. Rachel Linderman and Rochelle Westman of Olin, New York, traveled to the nation's capital because they said they wanted to be counted among Ginsburg's followers and demonstrate how important her legacy is to Americans. They said the way they were buoyed as they waited in line to be surrounded by people who felt the same way. I liked that I was with like-minded people, Linderman said. I feel energized. Where we live, we're usually in the minority, Westman said. Prominent visitors Wednesday included Vice President Mike Pence and his wife Karen, along with former President Bill Clinton, who appointed Ginsburg to the court in 1993, and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, whom Ginsburg had hoped would name her successor. President Donald Trump, who traded insults with Ginsburg 4 years ago, planned to pay his respects on Thursday. Since Ginsburg's death Friday evening, people have been leaving flowers, notes, placards, and all manner of Ginsburg paraphernalia outside the court in tribute. Court workers cleared away the items and cleaned the court plaza and sidewalk in advance of Wednesday's ceremony. Inside, the entrance to the courtroom, along with Ginsburg's chair and place on the bench next to Roberts, have been draped in black, a long-standing court custom. These visual signs of mourning, which in years past have reinforced a sense of loss, will largely go unseen this year. The court begins its new term October 5th, but the justices will not be in the courtroom and instead will hear arguments by phone. On Friday, Ginsburg will lie in state at the Capitol, the first woman to do so and the only second Supreme Court justice after William Howard Taft. Taft had also been president. Rosa Parks, a private citizen, not a government official, is the only woman who has lain in honor at the Capitol. Ginsburg will be buried next to her husband, Martin, in a private ceremony at Arlington National Cemetery next week. Martin Ginsburg died in 2010. She is survived by her son, her daughter, and 4 grandchildren, 2 step-grandchildren, and a great-grandchild. Ginsburg's death has aided another layer of tumult to the already chaotic election year. Trump and Senate Republicans are plowing ahead with plans to have a new justice on the bench, perhaps before the November 3rd election. Only Chief Justice Roger Taney, who died in October 1864, died closer to a presidential election. President Abraham Lincoln waited until December to nominate his replacement, Salmon Chase, who was confirmed the same day. When Justice Antonin Scalia, Ginsburg's closest friend on the court, died unexpectedly in 2016, Republicans refused to act on the President Barack Obama's High Court nomination of Judge Merrick Garland. And below then you'll see the picture of the flag-draped coffin.